Much for joining the Vulcan Risk Summit. I'm Gabriela. I'm Gabriela Pantelimon. Until a few months ago, I was Gabriela Tudreilanu. I'm working in cybersecurity for almost 5 years, and I worked as an incident responder and as a security engineer. And right now, I am a SecOps engineer in Bolttech. Well, there is a well-known book that is very popular these days that is talking about information networks. And one of the main ideas of that book is that stories are the base of information networks. So today I will be telling you the story of vulnerability management process in Bolttech. I start working on the vulnerability management process at the beginning of this year. We already have a process and we had policies for this, but we try to understand the problems of that process at that moment. And one of the issues that we identified was that the development teams were spending a lot of time reading the reports and manually integrating the information into their workflows. Basically, there were some PDFs generated by different scanning tools for different attack surfaces, delivered to their emails for the technical engineers or technical leads, and they needed to go and to get the information from there. So there were some teams that were looking at those reports and saying vulnerabilities everywhere. And when I'm saying vulnerabilities, I'm not only talking about the traditional vulnerabilities, but also about compliance findings or pen test results. Now, the other problem that we have identified is around accountability. Well, some stakeholders were not aware about their role and their responsibilities when it comes to vulnerability management. They needed to understand that what are the SLAs for different perspective, and from the internal perspective and the external perspective. And also there was always the workload issue. So sometimes we have the business priorities that were prioritized against some findings that we had. Well, this is something that's happened all the time in most of the companies. Sometimes you need to deliver an exact functionality and you need to budge somewhere. Now, I'm still using. Now, around solutions. Well, we tried to find a centralized prioritization tool, which was Vulcan. And we connected Vulcan with the help for the support and our customer success manager, Nino. We have connected Vulcan with our scanning tools, and there are a lot, trust me. We have a lot of scanning tools that are scanning different surfaces, and we have integrated Vulcan. Now we have the vulnerabilities in one platform. Then what? Well, we started with a mantra that we are keep repeating it. If everything is critical, nothing is critical. So we start to prioritize, and we understand very quickly that the CVSS score, it's not enough to prioritize some of the security findings that we got. We needed to look into the external exposure. We need to understand the exploit maturity, because sometimes an exploit is something that is seen only in a lab environment identified by researcher or by the vendor, and sometimes the exploit is only already free on the market for everybody to use it in good scopes or bad ones. Now, the other solution that we have identified is to integrate and adapt the workflows. Basically, Bolttech, it's a company that is present on 38 markets, and we have dev teams around 4 continents. And that's a challenge from the work culture perspective and also from the time zone perspective, trust me. So we have worked with each of this team to understand their workflow, their tools, where they are working. Some teams were using Jira, some teams were working in Azure board, some teams were working in a different ITSM system. So there were differences from the technical perspective. And what we have done using Vulcan was to integrate and adapt each of these workflows, each of these tools, to the way that we want to have the vulnerability management process. Now, Bolttech likes to say that we have a decentralized operation, but a centralized governance. Another thing that we have built so far, and I'm very proud of it, it's the Security Champion Program. What's the Security Champion Program? Well, we have tried to identify a team member from each dev or DevOps team to be our champion, our security champion, and they will be the preacher of the security in their team. They will act as a voice for the security of the security. They will be the bridge between the security team and the dev or DevOps team, and also they will assist the triage of security vulnerabilities, because sometimes you don't have, from the security team perspective, you don't have the big picture. You don't understand the architecture fully, or you don't have access to the documentation. So you need somebody from the inside to make you understand what's the exact impact of a vulnerability. And I will tell you a story. I was speaking a few days ago with a colleague that's a security champion, and we were looking on a report generated from Vulcan, looking at the number of vulnerabilities over time, and we concluded that we have fixed 90% of the vulnerabilities, and don't think that we found the magic tool or magic formula to do it. We just address the most critical ones, and most of the time when you are addressing the critical ones, usually the medium or low ones are also addressed, because if you are patching, let's say, a library, or you're just upgrading a library, you are fixing one critical and five, let's say, low. So we were looking at those reports, and I was like, wow, you did a great job. You are very good at this. And he told me about how a colleague went to him and asked him, hey, I have this system that I need to build from scratch. Help me to do it as security compliant as possible. And this is the kind of interaction that we are looking into. Somebody from the team, from the dev or DevOps team, came to the security champion, ask questions, and if the security champions feel the need to ask more questions, they are coming to us. But in the meantime, we are training the security champions on the security issues or on security topics to make them as good as possible, or to make them to help them to give answers as good as possible. Now, about conclusions. I have to tell you that the vulnerability management process, it's an agile process, as by the book Agile. It's you need to treat the vulnerability management process in an iterative way. You need to do risk prioritization process, and also you need to focus on adaptability and collaboration and continuous improvement. I have to tell you this: we have started the journey with Vulcan at the beginning of the year, and we had a lot of challenges, and we got a lot of things that were not working perfectly from the beginning in the process or with the tools. So you need to be agile, and you need to adapt to the conditions that you have at that moment, and you need to stay focused on the goal. And also, the most important thing that I believe it's for the entire IT world, it's communication. You need to learn to communicate, and you need to learn to communicate with stakeholders, with the dev or DevOps team members, with the security champions, and also within your own security team. So it's very important to understand the feedback that is coming from the teams, and to adjust to that feedback, but also to communicate what's your goal and what are your needs and what needs to be done. So that's it. That's our story. That's our journey. It's still writing. So we have made mistakes. We have learned from them. But we are here, and we believe that next month we will be better than now. Thank you very much.